Happy lunch hour, guys. All right, so still on this break and just checking what's going on here. The the jawboning of nuclear war seems to be very common today, and not exactly something that y'all want to be involved in. A couple of stories out this afternoon that we need to pay attention to. First off, let's talk about Russia-Ukraine, all right? Their commander-in-chief of the armed forces, okay, General Zaluzhny, is out today, and I'm just going to read you a couple of quotes here. It is impossible to completely rule out the possibility of the direct involvement of the world's leading countries in a limited nuclear attack in which the prospect of World War III is already directly visible. Okay, now, Russia has come out over and over and over again and said they're not going to use nukes. I'm going to tell you this. Russia also came out and said over and over and over again that they weren't going into Ukraine. So, yeah, I mean, I trust Putin as far as I can throw him. However, this is where we're going to see how the potato administration handles this one. Because apparently the 70-some-odd billion dollars of money and weapons we have sent Ukraine isn't enough. Now, this guy wants us to send them nuclear weapons. I'm not kidding. Listen to this. With the fighting all but certain to continue into 2023, Ukraine has to make war even sharper and more tangible for the Russians and for all other occupied nations, despite the massive distance to the targets. Where's the next one? Calling for, he was saying, he called the Crimean strikes a convincing example of Kyiv's calls for allies to send longer range weapons for its outgunned soldiers. Moscow, he said, can hit 20 times further. Okay, so that's fine. So Moscow can hit the United States with the nuclear weapon. You're at war against Russia right now. That's it. What do you need long-range missiles for? Russia has them. They've had them since the 60s. Okay, no problem. We know that. We've lived through that for 60-plus years. Why does Ukraine need long-range missiles? Who else are you planning on going to war with? Or do you just need something that you can sell to somebody else? Okay. Just spitball in there. But to add more to it, a country we haven't heard from in a while. Good old Rocket Man. Okay. North Korea has passed a law which declares its right to a preemptive nuclear strike as irreversible, and has also permanently barred any denuclearization talks. So North Korea will not, under any circumstance, reduce their nuclear arsenal. Now, we can go back to God knows how many different treaties between the Soviet Union and the United States, SALT I, SALT II, whatever would be, going back decades on that, right, to denuclearize. North Korea doesn't want to. Well, let's see, North Korea is probably not going to go to war against China. North Korea is not going to go to war against Russia. So why does North Korea so adamant about not having nuclear weapons? I wonder. Okay. Kim came out and vowed he will never surrender the country's nuclear arms, even if they're facing 100 years of sanctions. He said, let them sanction us for 100 days, 1,000 days, 10 years, or 100 years. Okay. His quote, the purpose of the United States is not only to remove our nuclear might itself, but eventually forcing us to surrender or weaken our rights to self-defense through giving up our nukes, so that they could collapse our government at any time. Okay? This is what the North Korean new law says. They are giving themselves, okay, permission to use nuclear weapons if attacked, if under threat of attack, if they feel an attack is imminent, so even if there's just rumors of one, okay, to defend against invasion. That would be interesting. Okay, what are you going to do? Nuke the DMZ? Okay. Or if the government's leadership is attacked, or an instance of an attack on a nuclear command and control center. So basically, if anything happens and Kim is killed through whatever happens, he is giving the people, because God knows, remember, they worship him, okay? He's giving the people the right to avenge his death by using nuclear weapons. This is where this shit gets scary, guys, okay? This is what we need to pay attention to when countries that aren't our friends are ramping up the nuclear war talk. Now, we haven't heard anything out of Russia other than to say we have no intent, okay? And we haven't heard anything from China, but of course, everybody knows that they are nuclear nations. They don't need to puff out their chest and say, well, we've got these. Everybody already knows they do. So who does Ukraine need nuclear weapons to defend themselves against? All right? I mean, seriously. Did anybody at all for the last 2 years heard anything about Biden and North Korea? No. So is North Korea tipping their hand a little bit? This is, again, me speculating. Because remember, North Korea is the baby brother of China. You know, whatever China says, North Korea will bow down and do. Is this the tipping point where North Korea is telling everybody, you know what, China's going into Taiwan and we're going to back China with this one, and if the U.S. comes in and helps Taiwan or whatsoever, we could feasibly think it's a threat against us, and that gives us the authorization to use nuclear weapons. Now, we really don't know a whole lot about the capabilities of North Korea. You know, I mean, again, going back to my morning video or my mid-morning video, you know, if it's made in China, it'd probably make it halfway across the Pacific before it fails. But this is just something to pay attention to, guys. When in the same day you've got Ukraine asking for nukes and North Korea talking about having nukes, something you need to pay attention to. Just keep an eye open. Pinball out.